Anyone can show you crazy crashes and satisfying instant justice caught on Dashcam, but only Wham Bam Dashcam has exclusive videos sent directly to us by our fans, along with the details and backstory you love. Buckle up! Tanner was driving his Ford F-150 at 35 miles per hour when the driver of a utility truck suddenly pulled onto the road in front of him, and slamming on the brakes wasn't enough to avoid a T-bone collision. Both drivers pulled into a parking lot to exchange information as police responded. Tanner's F-150 was totaled by the insurance company, but he bought it from them for $1,000 and got it running again himself. This proves that totaled doesn't mean irreparable or worthless. It just means that Tanner wanted to fix it more than the insurance company did. Once he had it running again, he replaced it with a newer F-150 with a crew cab. This submitter was on her way to get some ice cream when she was rear-ended by a pickup driver who clearly wasn't paying attention to the road ahead of him. Thankfully, our submitter wasn't severely injured by this impact that we estimated at around 45 miles per hour, no doubt thanks to the fact that she was wearing her seatbelt. She replaced her totaled Subaru Forester with a Tesla Model Y. Upgrade! She and her husband are hopeful they won't be sending us any Tesla Cam videos, unless they involve other people, of course. Enjoy your new ride! When Zach returned to his parked Ford Mustang, he discovered fresh damage to his front bumper cover, and you won't believe what caused it. Now that's a whole new level of cart demon. The employee apologized to Zach, and he made a claim with the business to get the damage repaired. The initial estimate for fixing the paint and replacing damaged parts came to $1,300. Chris witnessed an oblivious driver get rear-ended after cutting into another lane. The driver had been trying to avoid rear-ending the Toyota pickup behind Chris after failing to notice traffic slowing down, but they ended up being rear-ended themselves after nearly stopping in front of another driver. This submitter witnessed instant justice when the driver of a speeding Civic weaving through traffic somehow missed spotting a clearly marked New Jersey State Trooper in the passing lane. The trooper definitely noticed the Civic though. Our submitter told us he just rolled his eyes as he watched the incident unfold, then immediately thought of sending his footage to Wham Bam Dashcam. Thanks, man! This submitter was making a right turn on a green light, giving him the right-of-way over oncoming traffic turning left. Evidently, an oncoming driver figured he could squeeze into traffic, and he nearly T-boned our submitter. Our submitter's horn successfully stopped the other driver in his tracks, but check out this couple pushing a stroller dangerously close to the crosswalk while the walk signal was still red. They're fortunate no collision occurred, but it sure doesn't look like they learned their lesson. Looks like we have a couple of Parent of the Year award nominees in Quebec. Dawn's wife was driving in the rain when she noticed a car speed past her. When an oncoming driver misjudged the situation and turned in front of it, a collision couldn't be avoided. Dawn's wife stopped to make sure everyone was okay, and employees from a nearby car wash also rendered assistance and picked up debris from the road. Steve was driving 49 miles per hour in a 50 mile per hour zone one rainy day when he was passed by a speeding Honda. Whether because of the speeding or his failure to use his turn signals, the driver was about to get a big surprise. An unmarked police car lit up the party lights and pulled the speeding Honda over for some instant justice while Steve continued on his way to pick up his rideshare passenger. Nice! Our next submitter needs your help. Jake was coming to a stop for a traffic light when the driver of the Chevy Impala behind him rear-ended his Volvo S60, shoving it into the Kia Forte ahead of him. When Jake and the Kia driver pulled into a parking lot, the Impala driver took off, making this a hit and run. Since the Chevy didn't have a front license plate on it, they weren't able to provide it to the police. Jake made an insurance claim with his own provider, but without the identity of the offending driver, he'll have to pay his deductible to get his Volvo fixed. That's where you come in. If you have any idea who was driving that Impala, send us a message and we'll forward the information along. Sarah was driving her Peterbilt semi-truck hauling a full load of livestock when a tractor towing 2 trailers drove across the highway ahead of her, completely blocking all lanes. Sarah told us she slowed down from about 60 miles per hour to about 15 miles per hour before managing to slip behind the tractor. Miraculously, there wasn't any traffic in the oncoming lane, and she was able to use it to avoid a collision. A police SUV was behind Julia when she heard a rear-end collision happen behind her. The police officer made a 3-point turn and responded to the collision scene before Julia pulled into a nearby parking lot to retrieve her dashcam footage. When she offered it to the parties involved, they declined. I guess having a cop witness a collision is good enough. Thankfully, nobody appeared to have been hurt by the impact. Julia told us she and her family watch Wham Bam videos religiously, and she asked us to shout out their dog Charlie, who always remains attentive while our videos play. Hey there, Charlie. Who's a good boy? This submitter was on her way home from dropping her kids off at college when she spotted a Tesla behaving badly dipping out of the carpool lane, but she wasn't the only one who noticed.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
An Ontario provincial police officer, the equivalent of a state patrol trooper, lit up the party lights and pulled over the dual-motor Model 3 for some instant justice. Aiden was 20 minutes into a trip back to college when he noticed a speeding minivan in his rearview mirror. He assumed the driver would go around him, but then he glanced back at his mirror just as it rear-ended his Toyota 4Runner.
Oh my God, what the f***? What the f***?
Aiden pulled over as the minivan driver followed. At first, the minivan driver agreed to pay him $150 later that week to cover the minor damage done, but Aiden wisely got his insurance info just in case. That turned out to be the right decision. The minivan driver ghosted him, and when Aiden made an insurance claim, it ended up costing just over $1,000 to fix the damage. Thankfully, his insurance provider covered the cost of repairs. What was the minivan driver's excuse for what had happened? Evidently, he claimed his sandal had gotten stuck under the brake pedal. Shaq was driving down a California highway when he was nearly sideswiped by a reckless trucker who he said had already been speeding and jockeying between lanes before this happened. Thankfully, Shaq was able to swerve into a center turn lane to avoid a collision. He told us he reported the semi to the California Highway Patrol, but he never saw any troopers and doesn't know if they did anything. Brandon had just left a gas station when he watched a pickup driver lose control during a turn before overcorrecting and leaving the road behind him. Thankfully, the area the truck ended up was just a dirt lot. Brandon didn't think anyone was injured and didn't want to hang around that part of town any longer, so he continued on his way. This submitter was on his way to have dinner with a friend when he spotted a vehicle behind him suddenly bursting into flames.
Holy what? The car on us is on fire.
Our submitter stopped to make sure the driver, a woman in her 50s, was able to get to safety. After he called 911, he let her sit in his Toyota 4Runner while the fire continued under the hood of the Chevy Trailblazer. Thankfully, firefighters did eventually respond to put out the flames. This submitter watched the driver of a Honda SUV dive across a gore point, completely illegal by the way, in an attempt to merge onto a highway. Sadly, another SUV was already there. A white Jeep was clipped by the impatient Honda driver. Our submitter told us both drivers pulled over to exchange information, and it's unlikely there were any serious injuries. This video comes from a school bus, and it sure seems like our submitter was holding a cell phone up as a sort of makeshift dash cam, but we'll let it slide. The bus driver had to slam on the brakes for an SUV leaving a driveway.
When them dashcams. That guy needs a U for us.
The driver of the red Ford Escape failed to yield to traffic already in the road, the school bus in this case, but thankfully the bus driver was able to avoid a collision and nobody was hurt. Carmen was on her way to the grocery store when she watched an SUV stop for a red light before getting rear-ended by a pickup truck. Carmen told us she stopped to offer her dashcam footage, but the pickup driver admitted responsibility for the collision. Thankfully, there was no serious damage to either vehicle and nobody had been hurt. Ryan was driving through Yellowstone National Park when he got stuck in a bison traffic jam. After waiting a while for the beast to get out of the way, he was surprised to see how a park ranger handled the situation.
Oh, my head. Oh, wow. Are you kidding that for real?
Well, you can't argue with results. Ryan wanted us to shout out his son Chase, whose new favorite animal is the bison. They even stopped at a gift shop to pick up a stuffed animal. Watch this video next to find out how a different school bus ended up in the ditch in front of a submitter's house. Or watch this episode if you want to see another bison crossing in Yellowstone. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again next week.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.